On the planet Kestria, a place known for its vast deserts and ancient ruins, the humans were exploring a newly discovered star system. Among the crew was Jack, a young but skilled engineer, eager to see what the universe had in store. His mission was clear: assist a scientific team in studying the alien artifacts and technology left behind by a long-lost civilization. One afternoon, while Jack was working on the ship's engines, he received an unexpected message. It was from the captain, and the tone of her voice told him this wasn't an ordinary task. "Jack, I need you to report to the communications deck immediately. We've made a discovery, and I think you'll be interested in it." Curious, Jack quickly made his way to the deck, where he found the captain and the rest of the senior crew members gathered around a large holographic display. The image on the screen was unlike anything Jack had seen before: a mature alien woman, standing tall and elegant, her silver hair flowing like a river in the wind. She had a strong presence, and her deep, wise eyes seemed to stare right through him. "Meet Lyra," the captain said, pointing at the image. "She's from a highly advanced alien race. We've made contact with her, and she's agreed to meet with us in person." Jack couldn't believe it. He had heard stories of humans making contact with alien species, but this was different. Lyra wasn't just any alien. She was part of a race that had mastered many secrets of the universe, secrets that humans could only dream of unlocking. The captain explained that Lyra had offered to teach the humans about her people's ancient knowledge, and the meeting was scheduled for the following day. The next day, Jack stood on the ship's observation deck, anxiously waiting for the arrival of the alien visitor. The whole crew was excited, but Jack was especially curious. He had always been fascinated by alien cultures and technologies, and the idea of learning from such an advanced species was thrilling. When the time came, a sleek, silver craft landed softly on the ship's landing pad. The hatch opened, and out stepped Lyra. She was everything the crew had imagined and more. Her presence commanded attention, but there was a calmness in the way she moved. She was dressed in flowing robes that shimmered under the ship's lights, and her face, though unfamiliar, was full of warmth and wisdom. "Welcome aboard, Lyra," the captain greeted her warmly. "We're honored to have you with us." Lyra smiled, her voice soft but powerful. "The honor is mine. I've come to share knowledge. But I must warn you, there are things about the universe that are far beyond your understanding. It will take time for you to grasp them fully." Jack felt a sense of awe as he listened to her speak. He had always dreamed of traveling among the stars, but he had never imagined meeting someone like Lyra. Her people had been to places that no human could even fathom, and now she was offering to teach them. Later that day, Lyra gave her first lesson. She explained the importance of empathy and understanding when interacting with other species, especially those with different values and customs. Jack found her words captivating. There was a depth to her knowledge that was unlike anything he had encountered before. It was clear that she wasn't just teaching them about the physical universe, she was teaching them about the complexities of the mind and heart. As the days passed, Jack found himself spending more and more time with Lyra. She had a way of making him feel as though he was the only one in the room when she spoke. Her words were like a balm to his soul, offering comfort and guidance. He had never felt such a strong connection with anyone, human or alien. But it wasn't just her knowledge that fascinated him. It was the way she understood human emotions, the way she made him feel understood, valued, and important. There was something in her eyes, a spark of understanding, that made him want to know more about her, about the person behind the wisdom. One evening, as the crew gathered for a dinner on the ship, Jack found himself alone with Lyra in the observation room. The stars outside twinkled like diamonds, and the quiet hum of the ship filled the space between them. "Jack," Lyra said softly, "there's something I must ask of you. It is a tradition among my people to learn not only from others, but to share something of ourselves in return. I ask you to join me in this exchange." Jack was confused at first, unsure of what she meant. But as she spoke, he realized that she wasn't asking for a simple exchange of knowledge. There was a deeper, more personal meaning behind her words. He could feel it in the way she looked at him, as though she was offering something precious, something that only the two of them could truly understand. As the conversation ended, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change. Lyra had opened a door to a world he had never imagined, and now it was up to him to decide whether to walk through it. The days following Lyra's arrival passed quickly, filled with learning and discovery. The crew had become fascinated with the alien woman, not just for her knowledge, but for the way she made them feel. It was as though she had a special understanding of each person, an ability to connect with them on a deeper level. Jack, especially, found himself drawn to her. not only because of her intelligence, but because of the way she made him feel truly seen. One evening, as the stars outside the ship shimmered brightly, Jack found himself alone with Lyra in one of the quiet observation rooms. The hum of the ship was soft in the background, and the light from the distant stars bathed the room in a calm glow. Lyra sat in front of a large window, her gaze fixed on the stars. "The universe is vast," she said, her voice carrying a certain weight. "It stretches beyond what the eye can see, beyond even what the mind can understand." Jack stood by the window, his eyes following hers as he took in the breathtaking view of the stars. "I can't even imagine the things you've seen," he said, his voice filled with awe. "The places you've been, the knowledge you have." Lyra smiled, her eyes softening as she turned to face him. "And yet, you don't need to imagine it, Jack. You already have everything inside of you to understand it. You just have to open your mind and your heart." Her words lingered in the air, and Jack felt a warmth spread through him. There was something about the way she spoke, something about her presence, that made him feel at ease. He had always been a quiet, reserved person, but around Lyra he found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected. "How do you do it?" Jack asked, his curiosity getting the best of him. "How do you connect with people like this? It's like you can see right through us." Lyra's smile deepened. "It's not about seeing through you, Jack. It's about truly seeing you. People often hide behind their walls, but if you learn to look beyond the surface, you can understand them in ways they never thought possible." Jack nodded, taking in her words. It was something he had never thought about before. Most of the time he kept his own walls up, hiding his feelings and thoughts from others. But with Lyra it felt different. It felt as though she could understand him without him even saying a word. They spent the next few hours talking about the universe, about human history, and about the lessons Lyra had learned from her own people. Jack felt like he was learning more in those few hours than he had in his entire life. It wasn't just about the physical knowledge, like the science and technology Lyra shared. It was about the deeper understanding of life, emotions, and connections. As the night wore on, Lyra's tone shifted, becoming more thoughtful. "There's something else I need to share with you, Jack. It's something that goes beyond knowledge. It's about trust." Jack turned to face her, sensing the seriousness in her words. "Trust? What do you mean?" Lyra stood up and walked slowly toward him, her movements graceful and fluid. "In order to truly understand the universe and ourselves, we must learn to trust one another. To trust without hesitation, without fear." Jack felt a sense of unease settle in his stomach. He had always struggled with trust. It wasn't that he didn't want to trust others, but his experiences had taught him to be cautious. That there was something about Lyra's presence, something about the way she spoke, that made him want to let go of those fears. "How do you trust?" he asked quietly. Lyra reached out and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. Her touch was warm and comforting. "By accepting that there are things beyond our control, by opening ourselves to the unknown and embracing it with open arms." Her words stirred something deep within Jack. He had spent his whole life trying to control everything around him, trying to plan for every possible outcome. But now, with Lyra's guidance, he was beginning to see that some things couldn't be controlled. Some things had to be trusted. In that moment, Jack realized that Lyra wasn't just teaching him about the universe, she was teaching him about life itself. She was showing him how to open his heart, how to trust, and how to connect with others on a level he had never thought possible. As the night grew late, Lyra turned to leave. "Remember, Jack," she said, her voice soft but firm, "the key to understanding is not just knowledge, it's connection. It's the ability to see each other for who we truly are." Jack stood there, staring out at the stars, feeling a sense of peace that he had never felt before. For the first time in his life, he felt as though he was truly beginning to understand something deeper, something beyond the stars, beyond the science, and beyond the technology. And as Lyra's footsteps echoed softly down the hallway, Jack couldn't help but feel that his journey with her was just beginning. Over the next few days, Jack found himself reflecting more and more on Lyra's words. Her lessons weren't just about alien technology or the vastness of the universe. They were about life itself, about trust, connection, and the importance of understanding others, not just as beings from different worlds, but as individuals with their own experiences, feelings, and histories. Lyra's presence on the ship had become a quiet force. The crew, once unsure of how to approach her, now welcomed her wisdom and guidance. But it was Jack who found himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't expected. There was something magnetic about her, something that made him feel more alive, more connected to the universe. One evening, while the crew gathered in the common area to discuss their next steps, Jack noticed that Lyra was absent. Usually she was there, listening, contributing, or simply offering her quiet wisdom. But tonight, she was nowhere to be found. Curious and slightly concerned, Jack decided to look for her. He wandered the ship, passing through the different hallways and rooms. It was quiet, except for the low hum of the engines. After a while, he found himself on the ship's observation deck, the place where they had first met. And there she was, standing alone, her gaze fixed on the stars. Lyra, Jack called softly, stepping closer. She turned to face him, her silver hair glowing softly in the dim light. "Jack," she said, her voice calm and welcoming. "I knew you would find me." Jack hesitated, not sure what to say. "I was just wondering where you were." "Everyone's looking for you," Lyra smiled, but there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I come here when I need to think. The stars remind me of my home, of the people I've known, and of the countless lives I've witnessed throughout the years. There is so much beauty in the universe, but also so much pain." Jack stepped closer, his curiosity getting the better of him. "Pain?" he asked gently. "What do you mean?" She looked at him for a long moment, as though deciding how much to share. Finally, she spoke. "There are things in the universe that are beyond comprehension, Jack. Civilizations rise and fall, species are born, and others fade away. I have seen countless worlds, but I have also witnessed the destruction that comes with misunderstanding, with fear." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "So, you've seen wars, conflict?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, but more than that. I've seen the consequences of those wars, the aftermath, the broken families, the lost hope. It is not just the soldiers who suffer, it is everyone, the innocent, the helpless. That is why understanding, empathy, and trust are so important. Without them, we are all lost." Jack stood in silence, absorbing her words. He had never thought about things in this way before. As a human, he had always been focused on the immediate and fixing problems, on surviving, on getting through each day. But Lyra's words made him realize that there was so much more at stake. The universe was not just a vast expanse of stars. It was full of stories, full of lives, full of pain and hope. "What can we do to change that?" Jack asked quietly. "How can we help prevent all this pain?" Lyra turned back to the stars, her eyes distant. "It starts with you, Jack. It starts with each individual. The way you treat others, the way you listen, the way you show empathy. Change does not come from grand gestures or technological advancements. It comes from the hearts of those who are willing to reach out and connect." Her words hit Jack hard. He had always believed that solutions came from knowledge, from science and technology. But now, standing here with Lyra, he understood that the real solution lay in the way people treated each other and the connections they made. For the first time, Jack felt a shift inside him. He realized that he had been hiding behind his own walls, just as Lyra had said. He had been too afraid to trust, too afraid to let people in. But now, with Lyra's guidance, he felt a sense of clarity. Maybe it was time to start trusting both others and himself. "I think I understand," Jack said softly. "I think I've been afraid of trusting too much, afraid of getting hurt." Lyra turned back to him, her eyes filled with understanding. "Trust is never easy, Jack, but it is the only way to truly connect with others. And when you connect, you open yourself to the beauty of life." Jack took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. He wasn't sure where this journey would take him, or how much more he would learn from Lyra, but he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't the same person he had been before meeting her. As they stood together on the observation deck, looking out at the endless expanse of stars, Jack felt a new sense of purpose. The universe was vast, and there was so much more to discover. But more than that, he realized that the true journey was not about exploring new worlds. It was about understanding the people around him, and learning how to trust and connect with them. And with that thought in mind, Jack made a silent promise to himself. He would never let fear control him again. He would embrace trust, connection, and understanding no matter where the stars led him. The days aboard the ship felt different now. The air seemed lighter, the conversations deeper, and even the crew members seemed more connected. It was as though the arrival of Lyra had brought a sense of calm and understanding to the entire ship. Jack felt it the most. Each lesson she shared left him with more questions, but also more clarity about the person he wanted to become. One afternoon, as Jack was working in the engine room, fixing a few minor issues with the ship's systems, he found himself thinking back to the previous night's conversation with Lyra. Her words about trust and connection had stuck with him. He had never been one to open up to others easily, but lately, something inside him had shifted. He wasn't sure exactly what it was. but he felt like he was beginning to understand the true meaning of connection, of letting go of fear and embracing vulnerability. "Jack," came a familiar voice, interrupting his thoughts. He looked up to see Lyra standing in the doorway of the engine room, her silver hair glowing softly in the dim light. "Do you have a moment?" "Of course," Jack said, wiping his hands on a cloth and walking over to her. "What's on your mind?" Lyra smiled, her eyes warm. "I wanted to talk to you about something important. It's about the next step in our journey. As you know, we're planning to visit a nearby planet to study its resources, but there's something I need you to understand before we go." Jack felt a sense of curiosity stir inside him. "What is it?" Lyra stepped closer, her gaze focused and serious. "This planet is not like the others we've encountered. It's home to a species that is still learning to trust outsiders. They've had their own struggles, wars, misunderstandings, and fear, but they're also on the verge of something new. They're learning that unity is the only way forward." Jack nodded, listening carefully. "And what does that have to do with us?" "It has everything to do with you," Lyra said. "Humans are known for their ability to adapt, to connect with others in ways that no other species can. I believe that you, Jack, have a unique gift. You have the ability to understand others, to see their hearts, and that is what we need when we visit this planet." Jack blinked, surprised by her words. "Me? I don't know if I'm the right person for something like that." Lyra's expression softened. "I've seen how you interact with the crew, how you listen, how you connect with them. That is what makes you special. It's not about your skills as an engineer or your knowledge of technology. It's about your ability to connect with others, something that the inhabitants of this planet need more than anything." Jack felt the sense of pressure building in his chest. He had always seen himself as just a simple engineer, someone who worked with machines, who fixed things. But now, Lyra was asking him to do something far more difficult. She was asking him to step outside his comfort zone, to be the one who could help bridge the gap between two species. "I'm not sure I can do that," Jack said, his voice hesitant. "I've never been good at talking to people, let alone convincing an entire species to trust us." Lyra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her touch calming. "Trust is not something that can be forced, Jack. It is built over time, through actions and understanding. What you have is the ability to listen, to show empathy, and to see beyond the surface. That is what this planet needs right now." Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He had always thought that being good at something meant being skilled with his hands, fixing things, or solving problems. But this was different. This was about being open, about being vulnerable. It was something he had never been good at, but something he realized he needed to learn. "Okay," Jack said, his voice steady. "I'll do my best." Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with approval. "I knew you would. You have the potential to make a difference, Jack. But remember, it's not about convincing them all at once. It's about showing them who we really are, and letting them see that we come in peace." The days that followed were filled with preparation. The crew worked together to ensure the ship was ready for the journey, and Jack spent more time with Lyra learning about the species they would soon meet. As they studied the planet's culture and history, Jack began to see just how important the next steps would be. This wasn't just a mission of discovery. It was a chance to change the course of history. One evening, as they prepared to depart, Jack stood at the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The unknown was always intimidating, but now, it felt like something more. It felt like a new beginning. Lyra approached him quietly, as though she had sensed his thoughts. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice gentle but filled with certainty. Jack nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "I think so. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm ready to try." Lyra placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm. "That's all we can do, Jack. We can't predict the future, but we can shape it with every step we take. And together, we will make the universe a little brighter." Jack looked out at the stars, feeling a sense of peace settle within him. This journey wasn't just about exploring new worlds, it was about understanding, connecting, and trusting. And for the first time in his life, Jack felt ready to take that step. The journey to the new planet had taken several days. Jack spent most of the time in the engine room, making sure the ship's systems were operating smoothly. But his mind was often elsewhere, thinking about the task ahead. He couldn't shake the feeling of nervousness. This wasn't just any mission, it was a mission to bridge the gap between two species. Jack had never felt so responsible for something. In his life, the planet they were heading to was called Varana, a world that had seen both great civilizations and devastating wars. Its people had suffered greatly, and now, they were at a crossroads. They could either continue down the path of distrust and fear, or they could choose a new way, a way of peace, unity, and understanding. The captain had explained that they had to approach this mission carefully. It wasn't just about technology or knowledge, it was about showing the people of Varana that humans came in peace. As the ship entered the atmosphere of Varana, Jack stood on the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the planet below. It was a beautiful world, with vast oceans, green forests, and sprawling cities. But there was something haunting about it too. The scars of past conflicts were visible from space, in the form of abandoned structures and ruined landscapes. Jack wondered what the people of Varana thought when they looked at their planet. Did they see hope, or only the remnants of a broken world? Jack, came Lyra's voice, soft and steady. He turned to see her standing behind him, her eyes following the same view. It's time. Jack nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. I'm ready, he said, though he wasn't sure if he truly believed it. Lyra stepped closer to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. You've come a long way, Jack. Trust yourself. You have the ability to make a difference here. Jack looked into her eyes, seeing the confidence she had in him. It was strange how her presence always seemed to calm him. She had a way of making him feel like he was capable of more than he had ever imagined. The ship touched down gently on the surface of Varana, and the crew gathered in the main hall, preparing for the meeting with the leaders of the planet. Jack felt the weight of the moment settle over him. He had trained for many things in his life, but never for something like this. Meeting alien species was one thing, but speaking for humanity, representing his entire species, it felt overwhelming. They stepped off the ship. Jack's eyes scanned the landscape. The air was cool, and the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the ground. Ahead, a group of Varanan leaders stood waiting for them. They were tall and graceful, with sharp features and skin that shimmered in the sunlight. Their eyes were dark and intense, filled with curiosity, but also wariness. Lyra stepped forward, her calm presence immediately easing the tension in the air. Greetings, she said in their language, her voice smooth and confident. We come, in peace, to offer our knowledge and understanding, and to learn from each other. The leader of the group, a tall woman with silver markings on her skin, stepped forward. Her eyes studied the humans carefully. You bring no weapons, no armies. We bring only our minds and hearts, Lyra replied. We believe that peace can be built through understanding, not force. The Varanan leader seemed to consider this for a moment. Then, she nodded slowly. Very well. We will listen to your words, but you must understand, trust does not come easily for us. Jack watched as the exchange unfolded, feeling a knot of tension tighten in his stomach. This was at the moment when the future of their relationship would be decided. He had always known that trust was something that had to be earned, but he didn't realize how much weight that responsibility carried. As Lyra continued to speak with the Varanan leaders, Jack felt an urge to step forward. This was his moment, the moment when he could make a real difference. He had been chosen for this mission because of his ability to connect with others, his ability to listen. It was time to put those skills to use. Taking a deep breath, Jack walked up to Lyra and the Varanan leader. I know you have every reason to be wary of us, he said, his voice steady but filled with sincerity. But we are not here to conquer or control. We are here to offer our friendship and to learn from you. We believe that understanding one another is the key to building a better future for both of us. The Varanan leader studied him carefully, her eyes narrowing. Jack could feel the weight of her gaze, but he didn't look away. He stood tall, offering her nothing but honesty and respect. After a long pause, the leader finally spoke. Your words are unexpected, but perhaps we can begin to understand each other. Jack exhaled, feeling a sense of relief flood through him. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The road ahead would be long, but it was clear that they had taken the first step toward building a foundation of trust. He wasn't sure what would happen next, but for the first time he felt hopeful. That's the meeting continued. Jack stood off to the side, watching Lyra speak with the leaders, exchanging ideas and plans. She had always been calm, always had the right words to say. But now, Jack realized, it wasn't just her wisdom that was helping them. It was the way she made them feel. She made them feel seen, heard, and understood. Jack had always thought that knowledge and power were the keys to success. But now, he understood that it was something deeper: connection, trust, and the willingness to listen. And with that realization, Jack knew that humanity had a chance to make a real difference in the universe. The days on Varana began to blend together, each one filled with talks, lessons, and moments of understanding. Jack had never imagined that this mission would be so important, not just for humanity, but for the Varanon people as well. The more he learned about their history, the more he realized how much they had suffered from fear and mistrust. Their world was divided, each region facing its own struggles. But Jack also saw the hope in their eyes, the desire to build something better, something lasting. The crew worked tirelessly alongside the Varanon leaders to develop a plan. It wasn't just about sharing technology or knowledge, it was about learning to communicate, to understand one another. The Varanon people were cautious, but with each passing day, Jack saw their resistance soften. They were beginning to see that humanity was not the threat they had feared. They were, instead, a people willing to help, to listen, and to learn. One afternoon, as Jack walked through the city with Lyra, he found himself reflecting on how much had changed. The once bustling streets of the city were now quieter, more peaceful. The signs of past conflict were still there, but there was a sense of unity in the air. People no longer avoided one another. Instead, they were working together, side by side, rebuilding what had been broken. "Do you think they'll trust us completely?" Jack asked, his voice full of uncertainty. Lyra smiled, her eyes soft with understanding. "Trust takes time, Jack. It cannot be forced. But you've helped them see something important. You've shown them that it's possible to work together, to build a future based on understanding rather than fear." Jack nodded, still unsure. He had seen progress, but he knew that true change wouldn't happen overnight. The Varanon people had been through too much to forget their past so easily, but every conversation, every shared moment of learning, was a step forward. That evening the crew gathered with the Varanon leaders for a formal dinner. It was a sign of goodwill, a symbol of their willingness to build a lasting relationship. As Jack sat at the table, surrounded by the Varanon people, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had never been one for politics or diplomacy, but now he understood the importance of these moments. It wasn't just about what was said, it was about showing the Varanons that humanity was willing to learn and grow alongside them. Lyra, as always, took the lead in the conversation. She spoke with the Varanon leaders about the future, about how their two species could share knowledge and work together to solve the problems they both faced. Jack listened carefully, admiring her calm presence. She had a way of speaking that made everyone feel at ease, like they were all part of the same conversation, regardless of their backgrounds. After the dinner, as the crew and the Varanons began to disperse, Jack found himself alone with one of the Varanon leaders, a younger man named Ral. He had been quiet during most of the discussions, but now, as the others left, he approached Jack. "You've done something no one else has been able to do," Ral said, his voice low but sincere. "You've made us believe that peace is possible." Jack was taken aback. "I haven't done anything special. It's just about listening, about understanding." Ral shook his head. "It's more than that. You're different from the others we've met. You don't speak with force or threats, you speak with patience, with kindness. It's not something we're used to." Jack wasn't sure how to respond. It wasn't something he had ever thought about before. He had always been more of an observer than a speaker, more comfortable fixing machines than engaging in conversations. But here on Varana he had learned the value of connection. It wasn't enough to just communicate with words, you had to connect with people, to understand them on a deeper level. "We're not so different, you and I," Jack said finally, his voice steady. "We all want the same thing: peace, understanding, a future where we can live without fear." Ral smiled, his eyes filled with respect. "Perhaps that's true. Perhaps it's time we start thinking less about what divides us, and more about what we can build together." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of Ral's words. This mission was more than just a chance to help another species, was a chance to show the universe that humanity had something valuable to offer, the ability to connect, to empathize, and to build bridges where others saw walls dart as the days passed. The relationship between the humans and the Varanons continued to grow. The crew worked alongside the locals, sharing knowledge and technology, while also learning from their ways. Jack spent more time with Ral, discussing everything from the Varanon culture to the simple joys of everyday life. He learned that, despite their differences, they shared many of the same hopes and dreams. One evening, as Jack stood on the balcony of the ship, looking out at the peaceful city below, he felt a sense of accomplishment. They had come so far, and yet there was still much to do. The road ahead would be long, but Jack no longer felt afraid. He had learned that trust wasn't something that could be forced, it had to be earned, one step at a time, and they had taken that first step together. Lyra joined him on the balcony, her presence as calming as always. "You've done well, Jack," she said softly. "You've helped build something that will last." Jack smiled, feeling a sense of pride. We've all done it together. As the stars twinkled above them, Jack realized that this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, and there were still many challenges ahead. But now he felt ready to face them. With Lyra by his side, and the lessons he had learned on Varana, he knew that anything was possible. The weeks on Varana passed quickly, each day bringing new lessons and new opportunities for connection. Jack had found a new purpose here, one that went beyond his skills as an engineer. He had come to understand the true meaning of peace, not just as the absence of conflict, but as a deep understanding between people, a bond formed through trust, respect, and empathy. As the humans and the Varanons worked together, the changes were becoming evident. The city, once divided and full of tension, was now a place where cooperation and hope were starting to flourish. Jack could see the difference in the people's faces. The fear was slowly melting away, replaced by a cautious optimism. The work wasn't easy, and it wasn't fast, but it was real. They were building something together that could last. One afternoon, as Jack sat in the main hall of the Varanan Council building, he found himself deep in conversation with Roll, the young Varanan leader who had become one of his closest friends. They were discussing the progress they had made and the challenges that still lay ahead. "You've taught us so much," Roll said, his voice full of admiration. "It's not just your knowledge that's valuable, it's your approach. You listen, you understand. That's something we've never had before." Jack smiled, though he felt a little embarrassed by Roll's praise. "It's not me, Roll. It's the way we work together. We can't do it alone. All of us need to be involved." Roll nodded. "I understand now. Unity is the key. We've always been so focused on our own survival that we forgot the importance of working with others. But you've shown us that strength comes from cooperation, not isolation." Jack looked around the room where several Varanan leaders were gathered, discussing plans for the future. The atmosphere was different now, lighter, more open. They were no longer afraid to listen to new ideas, no longer afraid to trust. It was clear that the foundation for a new beginning had been laid as the conversation turned to more practical matters. Lyra entered the room, her presence commanding attention as always. Jack felt a sense of warmth in her company. She had been his guide, his teacher, and now, in many ways, his friend. Her wisdom had shaped so much of his own growth during their time on Varana. "Lyra," Roll said, standing as she approached, "we are making great strides. The city is beginning to heal, and the people are starting to understand the value of unity." Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with pride. "This is just the beginning. The real work lies in maintaining what we've built. Trust is fragile, but it is also strong when nurtured." Jack stood up, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "We've come a long way, but there's still so much to do. There's always more we can learn." Lyra's gaze softened as she looked at him. "You've learned more than you realize, Jack. You've learned the most important lesson, that peace begins with understanding. And that, above all else, is what the universe needs." Later that day, the crew gathered in the main hall for a ceremony, one that symbolized the new alliance between humanity and the Varanans. It was a simple event, but its significance was immense. The captain spoke briefly about the importance of this partnership, and Jack found himself standing beside Lyra, feeling a sense of pride he had never experienced before. He wasn't just an engineer anymore. He was part of something bigger, something that had the potential to change the future. As the ceremony ended, the captain turned to Jack. "You've done more than we could have hoped for," she said. "You've helped lay the foundation for a lasting peace. This isn't just a mission anymore, it's a legacy." Jack felt a surge of emotion. He had never imagined his life would take him in this direction. He had always been focused on solving problems, fixing things, but now, he realized that the greatest work he could do was to help others understand each other, to build connections that could last through any challenge. Later that night, as the stars twinkled in the sky, Jack found himself on the ship's observation deck once again. This time, he wasn't alone. Lyra stood beside him, looking out at the vastness of space, her expression thoughtful. "You've come a long way," she said softly, her voice filled with admiration. "You've done something remarkable, Jack." He looked at her, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lyra. You've been there every step of the way, guiding me, teaching me. I've learned so much from you." Lyra smiled, her eyes glowing softly in the starlight. "The true teacher, Jack, is life itself. We all have the capacity to learn and grow, if we're willing to listen." Jack nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle in his heart. He had come to Varana to assist with technology and exploration, but he was leaving with something far more valuable, a new understanding of the universe, of humanity, and of himself. "I think we've only scratched the surface," Jack said, his voice filled with a new sense of determination. There's so much more we can do. This is just the beginning. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch warm and reassuring. The beginning of something great, she agreed. As Jack looked out at the stars, he felt a new sense of purpose welling up inside him. The universe was vast, and there was so much more to explore. But now, he knew that the true journey was not just about discovering new worlds, it was about understanding the ones they had already found, and working together to build a better future. And with that thought, Jack knew he was ready for whatever lay ahead. The universe was full of challenges, but with the lessons he had learned and the connections he had made, there was nothing they couldn't overcome.